Okay, so now let's put our arch and the generator objects together in one scene and get a cool photographic background in there, so they look like they're actually in a realistic environment. Okay, so let's get started with that. So the first thing we need to do is get both of our objects together in one scene. And the way we do that is File, Import, Merge. Okay, so I'm going to start with the arch scene. All right, and then I'm going to go File, Import, Merge, not import, but merge. Okay, that's for a 3ds Max file. And I'm going to bring in my copy of the generator here. Okay, and there you just got to click on whatever object you want to import. If you had cameras or lights or other things, they'd show up here, but I just want that one. Okay, and I don't think you'll get this interface. I just have it because I made this with the older version of 3ds Max, this generator, so I'm just going to close it and not do anything with that. All right, and here's the generator. It's a little bit big, and I don't see the textures showing on there. Okay, if I hit render, and they're not, so let me just go into the material editor and have a look at that. So, so I'm going to go to, I actually did this before, but I'm going to go to a new empty material slot and get material. Okay, and then scene materials is here. Right? If I close up all this stuff, scene materials, and I have it set to filter selected objects. So here's all the materials in the scene, which, it's all byproducts of our unwrapping and stuff like that. But if I right click on that, filter selected objects, okay, then that object is selected. There it is. And you can see it's a standard material. There it is. And still the map's not showing. It must have lost its linking somehow. This really shouldn't have happened, but let me have a look at it. If I say view image, it's not showing. So if I click here and open, okay, it actually had the right address. I don't know. It doesn't really exactly make sense to me. It seems kind of like a glitch. Probably that won't happen to you. Okay, so this thing's too big, so I'm just going to go to scale, right? Select and scale up there, and make sure I'm on the middle thing, and I'm just going to scale it down some amount that I think looks about right. I'm thinking of these as pretty big, like hallway size things. I don't know what else they would be. And this is some smaller item I'll have closer to the camera. And I have angle and snap turned on, but I'm just going to position this thing somewhere. 90 degrees. So all right, so that's my scene, and now I'm going to name this. So one file is arch or arches, the other file is generator or unwrap tutorial or whatever. I'm going to call this arch and gen scene or something like that. So save as, and let's see, arch, and 2021. So just to make sure it's distinct from the other two, okay? All right, now we have to find, the next step is to find a good background, all right? Let me see what I have here. I have a whole folder full of images, okay, that I'm gonna, you guys can find your own if you want. I'm gonna supply you with this folder full of images that'll work. I just all found them, Google image search. But generally, like an abandoned warehouse or an old alley or something would be good environments. But you have to have floor, okay, that you can put your objects on, right? Relatively clear floor, and it also has to be close to the camera. The camera has to be fairly low, right? Because we want your objects to be close to the camera so we can see them. The point of this is to show off your nice work, right? So the objects need to be close to the camera, meaning the camera needs to be relatively low. If it's way up high, we're going to be looking down on them from a distance, sort of. So we need to be close here, but also enough space on the top so that they'll fit. You can put, multiple copies in the background or whatever. This is a cool looking image. And you also have to, when you look at the images, you also kind of have to consider the light source. This has a little bit of dappled direct lighting from various holes and stuff in this weird looking, I guess this is an uncompleted building maybe that was uh, abandoned. But there's some dappled lighting, but mostly it's just diffused lighting. Okay, there won't be a lot of cast shadows. I'm just going to go through and look at a few of them. I think this might be the one, or at least the same room that I showed you guys an example of one I did in the past. So this is direct lighting coming in from the right side, and then but it's only cast in certain places. Um, and also you have to make sure some of these. I think this one I'm going to delete. It's well, a couple of reasons. One, it's not big enough. The when we size it up to our full rendering size of around 3,000 pixels wide, this is not going to be quite sharp enough. Plus, I see now that it has watermarks on it. All right. And same with this one. This is too small. And plus, it's too. You want an alley that looks like stuff happened to it, but this is just too kind of gaudy and joyful looking or something. I think I might use that as plus it has watermarks and it's too low resolution. So I just collected all these yesterday. It's the way you can find a lot of similar looking things like this. Like if you just Google old alley or abandoned warehouse, you can find it from a million different angles. But if you put when you're in an image search, there's a little icon of a camera, and if there's a tab there, if you're in Chrome and Google image search, you can upload a picture. So I put in a picture like this that's relatively the right configuration with a lot of empty space and a dirty alley, and you'll find like 100 pictures that are very similar. Okay, so this looks pretty decent. I don't know, the good places to put stuff, or I don't know where I would position it. Oh, is this the same room as that other one? No, it's actually different. Looks like the same building almost, but so that's an interesting one to use. This is cool. The camera's a little high here, but not too bad. Definitely could work there. Okay, here, I just put this in an example of one that you can't use. All right, it's your objects are going to be way down here. There's no way to get them close to the camera without having them float in the air. All right, this one looks good. This one looks good. It's a little bit, it's not too high. Yeah, see how this is like right down on the ground? That's the best way to show it off. Pretty good, pretty good. Looking good. All right, so which one am I going to use? It's entirely diffused lighting. This has got shadows, but they're really soft. Sorry, should have decided ahead of time. I kind of like this one. It's got a really small space. And I kind of like this one. I'm going to give this one a try. All right, so maybe I'll do, I don't know. So we have to open one of those in Photoshop, okay? I decided that this one is going to be just now. That is going to be easier to show off what I'm trying to show you, because the other one has a really big floor. So I'm going to work with this one. Okay. Anyway, I got to open it in Photoshop. Because I want to make what we're going to do is to make sure there's no stretching and things like that in the in the simplest possible way. We're going to render our rendering out at the same resolution as the photograph. Okay, so what I'm going to do is scale up the photograph to the right size, and then we'll render on top of it. Okay, so all right, so let's look at this image size, and it's 1800 by 1100 pixels. All right, so let's make whatever size yours is, make it 3000 pixels wide. Okay, so now it's 3000. This is locked here, so I don't have to worry about the height. That's going to change automatically. Okay, and it looks like it gets bigger, but all right, this is very sharp. It's not very much graffiti here. Oh, okay. So I'm going to save this as, I don't want to mix it up with the other ones. Size. Okay. That's all the Photoshop we need right now. Okay, back to 3ds Max. Let's go to rendering environment. Okay, and let's put that picture, the JPEG should be here. Okay, so maps, bitmap, and I gotta browse. There it is. Okay, so now it's an environment map, and if I were to render it, it would show, but I'm not ready to do that quite yet. Okay, so let's go to our material editor and instance this to the material editor. Pretty much anytime you put an environment map in there, whether it's as a backplate like we're doing, or if you're using it for lighting or something like that, you need to instance it over to the material editor so you can control how it's mapped into the scene. So I drag it over here, and not copy, but instance, right? Instance is the same thing twice. And if I adjust it in one place, it adjusts it in the other. All right. And it says spherical environment right here, okay, for the bitmap. That means it's trying to use it as an environment map, like wrap it around the whole scene to project reflections on an object, which is a way to make things look realistic and light your scene also by the environment, but that's not what we're trying to do here. It should be screen. Still want an environment map, but screen. Okay, screen just means the picture is like is parallel to your screen, I guess would be the best way to say it. All right. So we still don't see it, and let's try to figure out how to get that going here. So actually, there's one thing I forgot to tell you. Well, let's just get this showing first. So if you go to up to views in the main menu, views, viewport background, environment background. Okay, and there it is. Holy cow. All right. So it's in there, but you can see how it's very squashed. Okay. And that's the thing I forgot to tell you guys to do in Photoshop. So let me just go back to open this. Open with Photoshop. Sorry about that. We needed to write down the dimensions, the pixel dimensions of our file after we resized it. Okay, so if I just go image size, and I had made it 3000 pixels wide, right? 3000 by 1833. I'm writing on an actual old-fashioned piece of paper, as long as you record that information somehow. Okay, you don't need Photoshop anymore. All right. The problem is that the dimensions that are showing here are actually, if I go rendering, render setup, the dimensions are 1800 by 1350, which I guess is something I had left over from the art scene, rendering the art scene. And that's not the aspect ratio of our picture. Okay, so let's make this the same as the photo. Okay, so I unlock this if it's locked, right? That locks the aspect ratio. Okay, and it's 3000 by, what did I say, 1833. Okay, and now you can see that these circles back here are round again, which tells me that they were very elliptical, which told me the picture was quite distorted. Okay, and now I'm going to relock the aspect ratio. All right. So now when you're working, if it's taking too long to render, you can just go down to, like, say 1000. Okay, and the aspect ratio is locked, and you can, render quicker stuff if you're just trying to work out your lighting or whatever. And then when you go to your final render, just go back to 3000 there. All right. So this is in our common parameters. All right. Okay. So one thing that you may not have is set up at this point that I do is, you see, as I was changing the aspect ratio, what was showing changed, right? And that's because I have show safe frames turned on. If not, it's just fills the whole screen, and you really can't tell what you're rendering. Okay, it's just looking into the scene kind of. So show safe frames, that shows me a 3000 by 1833 aspect ratio image. Okay, so we're looking good here. So the thing is, if we we can use I'm in a perspective viewport, right? And we can adjust this so it looks like it kind of fits. But you can see that the perspective is off, even though I'm trying to make it look like it fits on the ground. So to really adjust the perspective properly, we'll need a camera where we can change. It's kind of hard to tell. Once we start fooling with it, you can determine if the picture was taken with a wide angle lens. The default of perspective is like not telephoto and not wide angle, kind of like a 50 millimeter lens if you do any photography. And I believe this photo is a lot more wide angle because these guys should go up. But before we do that, let's save your scene again, okay? Because we're making progress here. And we want to try to we want to make a plane to cast shadows on, all right? And it will also help us position the objects, all right? So, and we'll put a special material on it, okay? So I'm going to go to create, standard parameters, plane, right? And you want to draw a plane that is kind of the same size as the floor in your scene, all right? And now that I'm thinking of it, I was thinking that the factory I almost chose was going to be difficult because it was too big, but this is actually really narrow. And usually you can kind of position things in the perspective viewport because the the perspective is close enough. But here there's quite a forced perspective. So anyway, maybe I'll try doing both of them. So I'm drawing a plane like this, okay, because that alley is kind of long and skinny. And then I'm going to position it, moving it down. Okay, go to default shading. Oh, I don't want the background on there. Just go back to wireframe. All right, so I just want everything to be on the true and actual floor, okay? Gonna move this guy down here who was up in the air. Okay, so everybody's on the floor, and now I can kind of position this, if I can, so it looks like it's on the ground. Okay, and you should be able to, once we get a camera in here, you should be able to line up this plane kind of exactly with the floor. I mean, it doesn't really have to be exact. It's just to make sure everything visually, it's like a visual aid. It has two purposes, this plane. It's going to have a special material to catch the shadows, and it's also helping us position our geometry in space. Okay, see, actually already I this is looking more correct. Okay, let's make it, first of all, before you do anything else, make sure you're not in the Arnold render. Okay, render setup, and let's just check here. This should be production rendering mode and scanline renderer. Okay, and it's actually not too bad, really. Let me move the plane down a little bit. Okay, make the plane a little bit longer. There, number. Okay, once I have the plane positioned, I can rotate my geometry more if I want. I could turn it like this or whatever, but I'm going to keep it squared out for now. All right, let's get a camera in here. It'll let us adjust the perspective more. Okay, so I'm in the perspective viewport, right? And go views, create standard camera from view. Okay, and you should see your viewport label turns into camera. All right, and the camera is selected. All right, so this actually turned out to be pretty normal. It looks like the perspective. Oops, now I'm in the camera, so I got to use these guys here to navigate around. And when you're positioning camera, it's actually easier to turn off snap. When you go back to rotating objects, put that back on. But and it's possible that my geometry is just not long enough. Okay, pretty good. Let's say I wanted to make a little bit wider angle. Okay, so if I go back to where's my camera, to select it, I can either go out to some other viewport and grab it, or in this viewport, I can go camera, select camera. Okay, and the lens is 43, right? So let me change. You can use these presets or just type in. Let's say I do 30. Okay, you'll have to, when you change the angle, a wide angle is going to make you look farther away, and the telephoto is going to make you look closer. So you'll have to zoom in and out afterwards. I thought this was going to be too low, but it doesn't actually look. Looks pretty good, actually. I'm going to rotate this guy 90 degrees. And move him back somewhat. All right, this will give me something to work with at least. Okay, so this is looking good. So I'm going to save this scene. All right. And then I'm going to go on in the next video to make this special material for